Oh my god. You're so clumsy.
Oh no.
Oh, right after Phoebe did it too. You saw it. So stupid.
I must have just blamed it on you as well.
Very strange that I have a large nose, and I'll tell you why.
I guess you're privileged to have a big nose then, because you don't live in harsh conditions.
The habanero one? Holy fuck, dude. You know, maybe I've been treating this bike as some sort of parkour bike when really it's just a...
I once came face to face with a wild rhinoceros. That was pretty crazy.
I got stung by a bee once.
Welcome back, everyone. Burning Boat Business is back on the podcast.
Baby, we're back.
After a 2-month little...
Hiatus.
Yes. I feel like a different person.
Me too.
Too many things have happened.
You are a different person.
That's true.
You're a dad.
I'm a dad.
You're a dad.
Yep.
How's it going? How's...
It's
been so
That is too big of a
long.
question.
It's been so long. I don't even know. Do you want to talk about it at all?
think we
Do you
should.
want to
Well-
just have it come
well,
out over podcasts?
a big part of... Like, we could have probably done an episode of this podcast, like, I don't know, maybe like a couple of weeks ago.
Well, let's say we recorded the last one, and I think like 3 or 4 days later, the baby came.
Yeah.
Oscar came.
But what I really wanted was, in the last episode, for those of you who remember, we kind of like laid out a bunch of things that would have happened by the
Yeah.
time we recorded the next one.
Yeah.
And for me, that somehow turned into this very like, I need to get those things done before I can like go back on the podcast.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
it was
yeah.
like, I'm going to become a dad. I'm going to run an Ironman. I'm going to finish writing my script.
I'm gonna start wearing dad pants.
Yeah, those were my things, right?
Yeah.
And we'll get into some of those, but obviously had the baby, and I really wanted to wait until I had finished writing the script, and so that's a big reason why we haven't done a podcast, at least
Yeah.
from my side.
Yeah.
Sooner, and I've waited until now.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think we had literally just finished the editing jobs that we were doing, and we had then started to, okay, now
Yeah.
we're going to do the final push for Boris and Johan. We're going to try and get it done.
Right. We'd finished the filming. Where were we editing?
We were editing Souls.
Oh
We hadn't even
yeah.
started editing these videos.
Gotcha.
And so we were like, okay, finally we can focus a little bit on Boris and Johan. Together, we're going to finish it.
Yeah.
Because there's a big chance that Phoebe's going to
Right,
be like
I
a
totally
week
forgot
late or
about this.
something.
Yeah,
and we
yeah, yeah.
edited for one day. And the next morning I call you. I'm like, don't come over.
Yeah.
Phoebe's having a baby.
Waterbrook. Yeah.
That was pretty crazy.
That was crazy.
That feels like a long time ago.
It was a long time
already.
ago.
Yeah.
I didn't even remember that.
Oscar is now over 2 months.
It's a big fella.
Yeah, big baby.
Big baby.
99th percentile.
Oh yeah.
It makes
That's
me
probably
it
what they
makes
tell
me
everybody.
embarrassingly proud. That shouldn't matter, but I'm like, oh, he's a big baby.
That big boy.
I like
He's gonna be an athlete.
He's got a very round face. I can't tell if he looks more like me or Phoebe. Honestly, I feel like he just looks like
A baby.
Oscar, the baby.
Looks very much like a baby.
But yeah, I mean, I don't know how to talk about it. Like, I feel like,
Has there been anything? Has there been any day or any one thing that you were like, oh fuck, something clicked for me, something, or is it more of a gradual? Well, now you gotta kind of start. You just deal with it, and then at some point it starts to feel normal.
one thing I thought about was that the birth itself, we had a home birth.
Yeah.
That was probably one of the hardest things I've done, because it was so hard to watch Phoebe in that much pain.
Yeah.
And I'm not used to that at all, and not
Yeah.
being able to do anything. Normally I'm able to do something.
Right.
And so that was very, very difficult. And it took 18 hours, which isn't crazy long, but it's also 18 hours.
Yeah.
And we were alone for at least 12 of those hours. No, like more like 11 hours. We were by ourselves.
Until the midwife came.
Midwives came and helped towards the end, which I was, at that point, I was like, oh, thank God. Just up until her water broke in the morning, and so we went all day through these mild contractions, like
Yeah.
totally, like she could breathe through them and it was fine. But then
Yeah.
it started to get very serious after like 6 in the evening. And it just progressively got super, super, super intense. And I had been very, very confident. And I started to become just like, I really wanted someone else to tell her that it was okay.
Right.
And it wasn't just me saying, yeah, this is normal.
Yeah.
So that was a big thing.
When
We're-
is there a point so like contractions get close enough and then you call the midwives and they're like, okay, we're coming?
Yeah, at least in Denmark.
Okay.
It was kind of like we kept calling them throughout the day. I think we called them like 3 times during the
Yeah.
day just to say what was happening, how
Yeah.
often they were. And they're like, okay, that sounds perfect.
Yeah.
Call us again in like 6 hours.
I mean, what a nutty fucking job.
Being a midwife.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty intense. The woman who came, she said she'd just come from a birth.
Yeah.
And then she showed up here at like 10:30 in the evening.
That's probably why, because I was like, why wouldn't they just be there all day? And then it's like, oh, because they literally like, we have better stuff to do. It's other babies.
Right.
Yeah.
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 They don't need to be here
No.
until it gets to a certain degree.
Yeah. Anyways.
But like the day after and the week after,
Yeah.
thinking about the birth was kind of like made me a little anxious. Like
Yeah.
it was scary.
Yeah.
It's like a little traumatic to think back on.
Yeah.
And it's only like recently that I've started to think about it as like a powerful and beautiful experience. And that like right afterwards, it was just a little overwhelming. Like
Yeah.
so much happened so quickly. And
Yeah.
then suddenly you're holding a baby and it's, you prepare so much for the birth and
Okay.
so little for afterwards. It's like as soon as the birth is done and the midwives leave, it's like, oh, right. Like that's like literally nothing
Yeah.
compared to the rest of your life.
Yeah.
But no, it's going really well. I think, I don't even know if I can't even say that it's like what I imagined, or it's just what it is. And
Yeah.
I'm very happy.
Yeah.
I think to talk about like what's difficult, I think the thing that's been hardest is trying to get back into work
Yeah.
and working from home and being here all the time, which is, I think it has massive benefits, obviously, but I was surprised at how difficult it was for me to leave them
Yeah.
and go and work by myself
Yeah.
and not like react to when it sounds like things are a little, stressful
Yeah.
in the other room. And I'm
Yeah.
just like, I got to go help.
Yeah.
I just
yeah,
have
yeah.
to go.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
do.
Yeah.
And then it takes time to get into it, I think.
Yeah.
Or get used to it.
Yeah.
But still managed to finish the script.
Yeah.
At a long for a long time.
Congratulations.
I did not think I was going to.
Really?
I mean, it was like this. I mean,
Yeah.
with anything.
Yeah.
It was just constantly up and down. Like one day I'd be like, this is the worst thing ever. It's just so confusing. It doesn't make any sense. No one's
Yeah.
going to understand this. And the
Yeah.
next day I was like, I'm a fucking genius. I've created this.
It's very
insane
weird
thing.
like that, alright? Yeah.
Like I've got something.
Yeah.
And then the next day I'd be like, you're delusional.
Yeah.
You don't know what you're thinking.
Yeah.
No one else does. Ugh.
Yeah.
But
you got it done.
I was super disciplined about page count. And that, I mean, I know you said that didn't work for you, but that ended up really working for me, was saying like, I need to get this many pages done today. And if I didn't, they would kind of be put onto the next day.
When did I say that didn't work for me?
I thought you said that what helped you was to set a certain amount of time, because then it became more about sitting down and working.
Oh,
and what
yeah.
You get done.
Yeah.
But sometimes if it was like, I need to write 3 pages,
Yeah.
that sometimes would become either a mental block, or you'd write just really crappy stuff for
Yeah.
the sake of writing it.
Although I still think that's good. It's good to get crap on the page.
Yeah, well, that's what
just
ended
for the
up
sake
working
of.
for me.
Yeah.
Like I'd just start, because I'd be like, well, I need to get those 3
Yeah.
pages. And then I could correct them. Then I could spend the first half of the next day working on those 3 pages I wrote
Yeah.
the day before, which
Yeah.
would then get me in for the next 3
Yeah,
pages.
that makes sense.
And it ended up being very much like a full day of just thinking, where I'd spend hours just sitting in front of the computer, or like writing notes, or like listening to a song, or watching a scene from a film. And then like an hour at the end of the day, usually in the evening, I would just write everything in one go.
Yeah.
And every day, the next day, I'd be like, oh my God, I'm not gonna be able to write the 3 pages. I don't know what to do next. And then sure enough, in the evening, I'd write 3 pages.
Yeah.
and it just slowly started getting more,
Adding
and more,
up.
and more, and more,
That's
and
what
getting
happens.
through the story. And there's so many times when you're like, I'm never gonna get to the end of this story. Like, let alone like
Yeah.
moving to page count. And you have like a rough idea of how many pages you think it's gonna be.
Yeah.
But you're like halfway through, and you're like, I swear, there's like 3 times the amount of story still left. And
Yeah.
like, how am I supposed to ever fit this in?
I mean, that's like any big project, or halfway through,
you
you're
gotta
like, this
just-
is never going to end.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, I gave you a copy of it, so
Yeah.
I'm on a certain level happy with it
Okay.
for as a first draft.
Yeah.
Um,
I'm going to be reading it tonight.
are you actually?
Yeah.
Oh gosh. Yeah, Phoebe, she said that she read the first 6 pages the other day,
Yeah.
and when she said that, something just like happened in my head. When
Yeah.
I was like, oh my, it was the weirdest thought to imagine someone else visualizing those scenes happening in their head.
Right.
Scenes that had only ever been in my head.
Right.
I mean, yeah, we've talked about it,
Yeah.
but not like scene.
Yeah.
We've talked about it in like general storyline
Yeah.
and like big plot points. Sorry.
Yeah.
But for someone to have step by step had that image in their head was just really weird.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, oh, that's why you write it, is to be able to tell other people about it, so that because you can't make the film on your own,
Right. Exactly.
so you need other people to
Right.
be able to understand it.
Yeah.
Which I don't know. That
And there is
a
this
lot.
inclination to want to constantly tell people like, oh, and then you got to also think that it's cutting out of this thing, and then you know how those, like, you want to over explain everything almost.
Yeah.
And it's good
Gotta
to
see
just
if you can
put
let
it
the
out.
writing do it.
Yeah.
But speaking of big projects, let's talk about the big project that the other day kind of
Boris and Johan.
wrapped up a little bit.
The edits got locked. I don't know what to call it, 'cause it could
I
still
think
get
it sounds
changed.
like that. It sounds like it's I would say it is
It's like an initial lock.
hang on. We call them rough cuts, then we call them fine cuts, then
Yeah.
we call them final cuts, right?
Yeah.
So it's a fine cut.
It's more than a fine cut,
It
though.
is more than
it's
a fine
fully
cut.
sound designed.
Yeah.
It's done. Like, I'd be happy, once the sound mix is out, I'm happy to show it to people. It's just if something massive happens, and I think also it will have been a couple weeks before I watch it in its entirety again. There might just be some final, like, this scene, this chunk can go, or this needs to be added back, but it won't be any like fine tuning.
So just explain where the film is at. You say it's locked. All that needs to be done is sound mixing, and if something massive changes,
Yeah.
what does that mean?
That's done.
I mean, I know.
What
What does sound
do you
mixing
mean?
What does sound mixing mean?
Oh, that's just like because we sound designed it, so we've gone in and done the whole soundscape of the movie, which is basically like if we're sitting here, right? What's happening outside? What's happening in the room that you can't see? All that stuff you can build with sound, right? Like, do you want somebody smashing a window outside and a car alarm goes off, and then the cat meows in the corner or some shit, or like now the laundry machine is going off, or like all those things that make a scene real. Obviously, you add then any sort of like emphasis on smaller things. So if I pick something up, or if I want to like direct the audience's attention on something. So all that stuff's been added, and it was kind of a weird experience. I mean, you had it too, because it's a found footage film, so it's a very
There's a lot of noise.
there's a lot of noise and a lot of it's like you'll watch it and you won't think that somebody's gone in and added all these things. Not that
No.
people do that in movies as well,
Yeah.
but there's very few what's it called, like non-diegetic. There's very few sounds that aren't in the scene.
That aren't meant to be in
Right.
the scene.
So if you're trying to build tension, or you're trying to do something that sometimes in movies you would have like a score backing it, or you would have, shings, or, something kind of leading up to something. It's done in a very like
subtle way. Yeah, like camera,
which takes a long time as well.
internal camera sound.
Right, or just breathing, or like a sound effect is
low
slowly
rumbles.
speeding up, but you don't
Yeah.
really notice it, or rumbles, or. So all that is done, which was like the biggest. All the
it's just as
biggest
much as the
work is
visuals,
done.
right?
Yeah. I mean, it took about as
So-
long.
I mean, it did.
Yeah.
And so sound mixing is going in and just making sure that all of that sound design is correctly mixed together.
Right, because
everything has the correct volume
exactly.
so that they don't overpower each other.
And you might take the bass out in one sound effect so that you can hear the bass more in another sound effect, or, you know, there's a lot of stuff you can do that I don't really understand. I'm not a sound engineer, but...
So basically, it's done from the perspective of we, depending on how people we send it to watch it,
Yeah.
react to it.
Yeah.
And when you say, unless something massive changes, by that you mean if a large group of people are saying, like, we don't understand what's happening,
Right.
then we'd have to go back in and consider re-editing some
Yeah.
things to make sure that those
Yeah.
issues, if they are
Yeah.
issues, get
Because we're
solved.
going to ask some questions, and if people are like, I don't know.
I didn't get that.
Yeah,
I didn't
we'd be
know
like-
that. I didn't know this massive thing. That
Yeah,
we
it would.
thought was
It's not a
clear.
lot of work. I mean, we just kind of made decisions, and we said, you know, let's withhold this piece of information,
Yeah,
and
see
if people are confused, we'll just put it back.
Right. So yeah. So it is very, very, very close.
Right, stuff
to
like that.
being
Or if
completely done.
everybody was like, this one scene felt bad.
Yeah.
I thought the acting was bad in this one scene. If I ask a question like, where do you
Right.
think the
Yeah.
performances didn't come through or something,
Mm.
everyone says the same. I would think about
Yeah.
cutting it out.
But it is a final version,
Yeah.
and so we talked a lot about, at least last week, the idea of, like, it's important for us to have a moment of celebrating it being done.
Yeah.
And, like, being able to actually say it's done.
Yeah.
Because otherwise it never really will be, because there's always little things
Yeah.
down the line.
Yeah.
Like we were saying, even once people have screened it and we make changes
Yeah.
accordingly, then after that we gotta send it to festivals.
Yeah.
And then you gotta, like, maybe design a poster or
Right.
edit a trailer.
Yeah, but it's
or-
all very different. I mean, it's,
yeah, but
you know,
there's never like a day when it's like,
No,
all right, Boris
no.
Johan is now something we're never gonna work on
Yeah,
again.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
That just slowly happens.
Yeah.
I was saying one day we'll look back and be like, oh yeah, we're not working on that anymore.
Right,
But it's
right.
not like there's a clear cut day.
No.
So it felt like 2 days ago very much was the day.
yeah, well, that was a whole ordeal, or
Well, do you want to talk about
Hey,
it?
let's get into it. It was basically,
Well, start like the week before.
well, you start, because I think for me, it's a blur.
Yeah,
I was
I
like,
think I
in
have
this-
a more outside perspective.
Yeah.
Because Taylor's been editing it mainly by himself.
Yeah.
And then I've been at the end, the last couple of months.
Yeah.
And so then what I've been doing is I've been coming over like once a week ish
Right.
to see what you have edited and comment on it. And
Exactly.
just kind of like
listen to my
tell you
crazy
that
ideas.
I think it's good.
Yeah.
And if there's something I don't understand, point that out, and then we can kind of edit some scenes while I'm there. But that gives you like a fresh
Yeah.
start the next day, and you can kind of focus on the things that need to be worked on.
Yeah, and I always
move
say
on
there's
because
something
you know
about somebody sitting next to you and you watching your own work. Half the time, I already know
what's
how
the-
I feel
what the
about
thing
it
is, yeah.
afterwards. It's just you need that second person there.
But for the last week, I was very much under the impression, and so were you.
Yeah.
That okay, today's gonna actually
Yeah,
be
yeah,
the
yeah.
last day.
Yeah.
Like, there's
Here we go.
I don't know what else there is to change.
Yeah.
Like I think it's there.
Yeah.
And then I'd show up and we'd be watching it and we'd be like, oh, there is something.
Yeah,
we could do
this
here.
thing.
And then we'd work on that.
Yeah.
And then we'd want to wait until the next day to then watch it again.
Right.
Because then once you've worked on something, you need a second to step away from it and
Yeah.
then watch it with fresh eyes at least the next day
Right.
and see if that actually works in the big scope
Yeah.
of things. And so that happened like 4 times.
Yeah, because what you're trying to do is you're watching the whole movie without having to say a comment anywhere, which is almost impossible.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure if I watched it now, I would still find, but it's not exactly a technical thing. So I finally made it through and didn't have a point at which I was like, I gotta stop it here.
Yeah.
And that kept on happening day after day after day.
Yeah.
For good reasons. I mean, those were scenes that kind of just fell. I mean, there's 130 scenes or something, 135 scenes. You watch them a million times. Sometimes one scene just kind of, you're like, yeah, that's that scene. And then it just takes one person to question it and be like, wait a minute, why
You
is
do that, yeah.
this not more fleshed out? Or why is there no tension built here? Or why did we just blow past this? And it's
Yeah.
like, oh, fuck, let me look back into the...
Yeah.
And then it becomes a whole day thing to like edit. And it's very frustrating because at the same time, you really do want to finish it. And people are asking all the time,
Yeah.
oh, I thought you said it was going to be done.
Yeah.
Oh, well, I thought so too.
Yeah.
I'm not,
I know.
it's not laziness, but I think it comes across almost as like, it's just one of those things. It's impossible to tell someone when it's going to be done,
Yeah.
you know? find it very scary to be if you were behind a studio and they were like, it needs to be done by
Right.
this.
Like to have an actual hard deadline on it.
Right.
But so tell me about the day when I came over and
Right. So the last day.
it actually looked like it was like there was a
Right.
one little thing we needed to change.
Yeah. It was one little thing. We changed it. But it was just like this tiny fucking transition. It's literally one shot and kind of one transition going into the shot.
Going from one scene to the next.
Yeah,
scene.
and I was very upset about that transition.
Yeah.
And I couldn't figure out why. And I was
No.
like, it's not working. It's not. I'm
Right.
starting to question, like, is this the right ending? Blah, blah, blah. Like, what's not working? I couldn't figure it out. And then you were just very supportive and were like, no, it's good. It's good, Taylor. It's
and
good.
I genuinely thought it
Yeah.
was. I really liked the thing that we had come up with,
Right.
the transition we
Right.
ended up doing. I thought it really worked.
Yeah.
Not thematically, like emotionally.
Right.
And it used a technique that I felt fit very well to
Yeah.
the thing we were trying to convey. So I was very satisfied with it. But the thing was, going into it, I already thought we had locked that part of the film. And so I was a little bit like, I don't think we need to change anything. But then
Right.
you said something about the scene. I was like, actually, you're right. We do need to change it.
Yeah.
And then I felt like the solution we came up with was perfect.
Yeah.
And so I was supportive.
You would support it, totally.
And then,
And then it just became I think in my head it became, you had come over, like I said, 4 times in a row,
yeah.
basically expecting it for it to be done. And I was about to say, it's not done again.
Yeah.
And then you asked me, well, can I at least tell Phoebe that it's done? Because I think we were kind of like, well, we can call it done. And then in a couple of months, we'll look back into it.
Right.
Or not a couple months, a couple weeks.
Which is what we're
And then
gonna
we'll
do
fix
anyways.
it,
So I
right?
said, I remember very clearly saying, because I was like, I don't want to push you to say it's done.
Right.
So I purposefully got up, packed my bag, and was standing like, okay, I'm ready to go now.
Right.
I'm not going to say anything. And then I think
Right.
I said, look, it's not done.
Yeah.
Even if it were done.
Yeah.
It's not done.
Yeah.
But I think you need time to not think about it for a second, because I felt like you were starting to not be able to watch it.
It was also hard for me to understand if I was just upset because I didn't want it to, because you had said that thing about Peter Jackson where it's like the last shot, he just keeps on doing the last shot, the last shot, the last shot.
I
And it's kind of
thought
this
so.
melancholy moment. And you had brought that up to, and I was like, am I just upset that this nice thing is ending?
Yeah.
That has also been the curse of my existence for the past.
Yeah.
fucking-
You start to connect yourself to
Right.
that.
Or is there actually
Something
something
wrong.
that I'm like, no, this isn't done yet? Or another question comes up like, will I ever be done? Do I need to pull the trigger at some point and just say, you know what, it's done.
Right.
This isn't going anywhere further.
Right.
We can play with it as
You
much
keep
as we want.
changing it, but it's not going to
This
change
is
it.
right. So then I was like, you know what? Fuck it. You're right. Let's call it done. Let's pop the champagne. Right. I'd held onto the champagne that Phoebe had given me like 6 months ago.
Yeah.
And it was supposed to be a really nice moment. And I was just in total dissonance. I was like so split between how I was feeling and wanting it to make it a good moment for you because you had helped me so much with everything. So we walk to the hill, we pop the champagne. It was fun. But again, in the whole time in the back of my head, I just this odd feeling that I was kind of putting down to like, it's happy and a sad moment. It's just one of those moments where you want to be like, whoa, but it's also just like well, yeah, it is what it is.
Like, what now?
Yeah. And then you left, and then I was like, oh, I'm just going to sit on this hill for a little bit. Right. And I sat on the hill, and it's like blowing wind. Pretty intense scene, right? And I was like, oh, fuck, what do I do? And I'm just telling myself, I was like so upset with myself because I was like, it should be such a great moment.
Yeah.
And you feel horrible,
Yeah.
right? Like I hadn't felt worse in like the past month, 2 months. And I was
Yeah.
like, why now? Like, this is so strange. So I went home and I said, okay, you're not going to touch it. You're going to go with, you said it was good. Leave it. Like, let it be a nice thing. I didn't know how you were feeling at the time or if you even read into it at all. And I was like, don't ruin it for him. Don't be selfish. Just let it be what it is and move on and get over yourself. And you'll touch it again in a couple of weeks and it doesn't need to be this huge thing.
Yeah.
Right? But of course, like, fucking insane person. I was like,
Yeah.
I just can't let you think something if I don't think it's Like, it's just a need to be honest at the end of the day a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, well, you know what? Let me look at it. And by that point, I had drank a little bit of champagne, and I'm very against like drinking and editing at all. Like, I'm not going to go in, you know, and start messing with stuff if I'm not sharp and like working and stuff. So it was also an awkward thing of like, I wanted to work on it then so I could call you the next day maybe and be like, okay, you know what? Now it's done.
I made a little change, but okay, now it's good.
Yeah, now and then, yeah, I called you because I couldn't. I had to say something. I said, I'm so sorry. I don't know what I said. I've got the conversation recorded somewhere.
I remember what you said.
Yeah, and I felt really sorry that it was, what I felt was that I shouldn't have said it was done.
Yeah.
That I ruined a good moment by succumbing to a little bit of pressure.
Yeah.
That could have just been avoided. Even though it would have been an uncomfortable situation for me as well to say it's not done again. Because it did feel like this, well, is it ever going to be done? Like, come on, like we need to.
Yeah.
And also when you leave and come to my place, I know it's a big like thing. It's not like, oh, you can do that every day for it, you know? So I think all that together and everything, I was like, oh, fuck, like I fucked it up. I ruined it. What should have been a nice moment. And I called you and I was just very like, on the one hand, I felt very emotional. And on the other hand, I said, that's me. That is what I respect about myself, that I would go back when it would be so easy just to not touch it anymore. That I have a bit of an obsessive quality. And I said, I think it can be a little bit better, this part. And I want to fix it. And I don't know what the problem is yet, but I'm going to fix it. And I told you what I thought the problems were, which turned out not to be it. And then the next day, I woke up. Wait, was it that? No, that night. So I was off the phone. I think you called me back then. Said something as well.
Because you're right. I did feel upset. I was
Yeah.
like, oh,
I think we were
now
both
it's
upset.
Yeah. Now it's ruined. Like,
Yeah.
Now I can't feel like it finished.
Yeah, I
And
did ruin
you
it.
can't ever feel like it again
Yeah,
because
yeah.
you can't be like, oh, now it's done. And then
Yeah.
feel like, oh, because you already had that.
Yeah.
So I was upset. Not like at you, but just in general.
I could tell. I mean, I think we were both just a little bit. And then I was like, oh, I need you to come by tomorrow and like watch. And you were like, oh, I don't
No.
know if it's like, yeah, you were basically like, no, I'm not going to
Yeah.
do that. And then I was like, well, fuck. But at the same time, I was also like, no, it can be better.
Yeah. And then I called you back to say
I don't feel sorry. You know, I'm not like apologizing for that. I'm just apologizing for, I wish I hadn't said it was done.
Right.
And then right after that, I had like a just a breakdown moment because I was on the phone with you and I could feel myself welling up, which was a weird experience because I was also like, no, I believe what I'm saying.
Right.
It's not a weird, but I just started feeling like a very emotional, got off the phone and I just cried for like, I don't know how long, like 5 minutes, very quickly. But I never cried. Like I told you, the last time I think I've cried was like 2 Thanksgiving ago. I can remember it very clearly. And before that, I can't remember. So it's such a surreal moment too, where you're like, oh my God, I'm crying.
Yeah.
Like I'm looking at myself from the outside, almost like, should I film this is such a rare thing. And it wasn't sad. It just felt like cathartic, like something, I don't know what it was.
It wasn't sad.
No, I didn't feel shitty afterwards. That was the thing. I was happy that I had said something. I felt shittier
So
before
you felt relief.
because I felt bad that I had made a moment that was a false moment a little bit.
Yeah, I remember so clearly. You said I feel like a phony.
Yeah.
I feel like it was all fake, and I just felt so bad. Like I
Right,
felt
it was
so
just-
like,
it
oh
was
my
just
God, I
offset.
can't believe that you feel that way.
It was just, I was trying to make it so, yeah, I don't know what, you know, and then that whole thing. But again, it wasn't sadness. So I didn't feel like, I don't know what it was. And it was also just this feeling of like, I still don't know. Anyways, and then the next day I got up, motivated, went on the computer, worked, and I figured out what was bothering me. And it was the take of the scene.
Yeah, it was something right before what we thought the issue was.
And it wasn't something that I could fix in that moment, which I think was why I was avoiding it a little bit. But even though I didn't know, but it's like sometimes when you're sitting with, it's some stuff you have to do by yourself. Where it's like, oh, I got to dive back to step 1 for the scene. And that's a long process. It's not a simple like 1, 2 fix. You know, you got to go all the way back. You got to watch all the takes again. You got to go through the whole thing, which is also a very hard thing to do right after you said it's done.
Yeah.
Right. But I think
All it
that's
takes
what
for
was
that
bothering
scene.
me. It was, like I said at the beginning of this podcast, now it's done.
Mm-hmm.
I don't feel the need to go back into scenes unless something massive happens. So I feel relief.
Right.
I never need to go, fucking thank God, I never need to touch that shit again because it's so like overwhelming and everything. And I fixed it. I sent it to you.
And
Yeah.
I didn't know if you were crazy.
Yeah.
I thought he actually just genuinely is too far into this, and
Yeah.
he just can't see it anymore
Yeah.
for what it is.
Yeah.
And you're starting to get, because you said to me at one point as well, which I kept repeating in my head.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm second guessing every cut, and that to me
Yeah.
was like, oh God,
Yeah.
that's a problem.
Yeah.
But then when you
But
sent
it wasn't
me,
every cut. It was just every cut in that scene.
Right, okay.
Because it was that
well, I
specific
thought
thing.
you meant the whole thing.
No, because we were editing together, and I actually feel like I'm very sharp on the cuts right now and everything. And then it got to that scene, and I was like, everything I tried just felt clunky and not quite working and not quite lining up. And
But then when you sent me
yeah,
the new edit, I was like, oh, thank God he's not crazy.
yeah,
Because the
It's
thing
better.
you had changed was, it suddenly, I saw as well, oh wow, that really makes a huge difference.
Yeah.
And it was for a completely different reason
Yeah.
than I thought.
And the thing we had stressed over suddenly became so
Irrelevant.
unimportant.
Yeah, because there's a lot of weight suddenly on the transition.
Right.
Really, it didn't matter if you got it right
Exactly.
a couple of minutes before.
Yeah,
And I feel like we did get a little bit of a, like it is done
yeah,
afterwards.
but also a much more realistic one.
Yeah.
Because in a way, I think the fact that I knew about the champagne and all this stuff,
Yeah.
it was leading up to something that was going to be fake. In a sense.
Like a big moment.
I had thought about it too much,
Mm.
where I was like, oh, we're going to go to this hill, we're going to pop the champagne, we're going to... And it just
and I'm
wasn't...
going to film it.
Yeah, that's also a very weird thing.
know.
As soon as the camera comes out,
I know.
we haven't filmed each other. You get used to it when it's happening a lot.
Yeah,
But for it to come out all of a sudden again, it just felt like a weird,
I know.
you know...
I hate.
Like, I need to react
honestly-
in a certain way so that people
I hate filming.
understand. Sometimes it's, yeah.
It's the worst, but it's like I'm not gonna not do it because there's something. Sometimes it is worth.
Yeah.
Like I'm just gonna sacrifice not capturing this moment because it's more important to
Yeah.
experience it for real.
Yeah.
But when you're making a documentary about the process of making a feature-length film,
Yeah.
and you don't capture that last moment, I mean, I didn't feel like that was worth it, so I filmed it.
Yeah. No, fair enough.
I'm glad I did as well.
Yeah.
But that added something.
And then I filmed the phone call because I was like, well, if I'm going to fuck up this fucking climax, this nice moment that we try to create, the very least I can do is it's a total shitty frame. I just fucking hit thing on the computer and called you. I'm like sitting on the couch in the background, you know?
Yeah.
But I was like, it's the only thing I can do. Otherwise, it's not what happened.
And I filmed you too.
Oh, good.
From my end.
Because we're fucking lunatics.
I just had the camera up, pointed at me, and then I called you. And I felt super weird about filming.
I did.
the
See,
conversation.
that's less weird to me because I was like, I don't know what I'm going to say right now.
Right.
So it feels less like contrived or
Well,
less
I did a
I'm
little
building a
bit.
moment. I'm like, something's going to happen now. I just want to make sure that I also remember what I said. It's an interesting thing to have to go through and be like, you know, say that, I guess. But anyways, then we had the finishing moment for me was on Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, it was a very strange, but I wouldn't have wanted it any other way. It was basically, I finished it. I looked at my roommate who's been seeing me work on this thing for like probably a year now.
Yeah.
But for the last couple months, I've been at our place,
Intensely
right?
Working on it, yeah.
Which he was also not, and rightfully so. I'm like sitting in the living room, you know,
You made your,
all hours
all
of the
your
day.
setup there.
Right. And I just looked up at him and I said, oh, it's done. I said, oh, good. And it was such a
Non-moment.
you know? And you had said it was good. And then I just sat there. And then I had a really weird, because of the day before, I think. I had 2 days, that Sunday and then yesterday. I just felt so out of it. I felt so insecure. Like all the confidence had washed from my body. All the like, I was in such a weird, like, I don't know what it was. I think it's a little bit like you lose your purpose for a split second because that's all you've been thinking about. And suddenly you're like, this question of like, who am I without this thing a little bit?
Yeah, which is what I thought.
You know, what do
the
I do?
underlying, you know, maybe it is still a combination of both
could-
those things.
it could be.
Because it was a seemingly simple fix.
Yeah.
To fix that end thing.
Yeah.
That there felt like a much bigger deal because of it being the end of it.
Right.
The two combined made you feel really weird about why do I feel so
Yeah.
strongly about this thing that I can fix it. I just need a day tomorrow.
Well, it
do
was a simple fix, but also was not a simple fix.
It was a
It was
disguised
the hardest thing
yeah.
to sound design for me. It was like pacing wise the hardest thing. I have so many edits of that specific scene,
Yeah.
which is such a weird. So I think it was like you said, it's probably a combination, but it just happened to be one of the fucking hardest scenes to edit. And the thing of like we talked about when you're writing a script, it seems like the beginning of the script is always the best because that's kind of what you always return to.
It's the first thing.
And you
do.
leave the ending for, even though that's not even the ending of the film, it's kind of just like this little chunk that kind of never gets touched very much.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know, and throughout the whole editing process, we had kind of skirted around this one scene a little bit. And then there was just like this massive, like, fuck, is it, you don't know, is it bad? Is it, is it fixable? And then I literally wash over release as I watched over the footage again. And I was like, oh my God.
Just because it's the wrong take.
This is perfect.
Well, it's definitely.
Yes, I felt terrible.
Definitely
Well, not terrible, but I felt very strange Sunday and Monday, questioning everything. And
Phoebe, you can go.
Yeah.
You're all good. Yeah.
And then today I woke up, slept. I feel back to normal. Pushed all those emotions down. Repressed them. See, this is why the podcast is so good. Because you talk about that shit. You
Yeah.
get it out of your system.
Right.
And now I'm like, great.
There's
Not that I was upset about it before, but it's like, it's very
No.
nice to just talk it through once and be like, that's how it felt. That's what it was. It's like therapy. It's literally therapy.
It's because I find myself always saying things that I probably wouldn't say to you
Yeah.
if it was just the two of us.
Yeah.
But weirdly, we are just the two of us.
Yeah.
But we know that it's being recorded and
Yeah.
that someone else is also going to watch it.
Yeah.
So there is this feeling of like, I can talk to you, but I can also talk and hear myself
Yeah.
a little bit
Yeah.
in a weird way.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's,
Are we recording?
yeah.
Oh.
Let's do, it's review time.
You want to quickly? Well, we'll have a last segment afterwards.
Good.
It's review time.
It's review time. Movies, podcasts,
Podcast.
books.
Books.
So, well, it's been like ages since we did review time. So
Yeah.
I'm just gonna pick.
It's just going to be random.
I started listening to a new audiobook,
Uh-huh.
which is done. I've literally listened to the foreword and the first chapter, or like half of the first chapter, and it's all already kind of like almost like made me cry listening to it. It's called the book you wish your parents had read,
Oh, you guys, yeah.
and the subtitle is something like, and your kids will be glad you did,
Okay.
or something like that. Phoebe recommended it to me. She heard it on another podcast, so we're actually reading it at the same time separately.
Oh, nice.
And it's like, to me, it's really not about parenting. I was relating more to it in ways that I communicate with like just everyone in my life, like my parents or you or Phoebe or like the baby as well. But I felt like he's still too young to apply to a lot of the things that it's about.
Yeah.
It basically is talking about how if you start to become aware of how you react to when someone else, specifically your child, when they do something and it upsets you, reflect on why it makes you upset, because often it's something that isn't upsetting in nature. It just happens to upset you specifically.
Okay.
And it talks about an example of like the woman who wrote the book. She found that she would get like furious when her children would like squeal when they were playing, like when they get really hyper together
Yeah.
and they'd like and like playfully scream, not in like public, just at home.
Yeah.
And she was like, well, like, why is that actually something that really upsets me?
Yeah.
And she asked her mom, because, well, that's what kind of the book is about, is like, well, maybe think about how you were in your childhood and what you were told was okay and what you were told off for doing. And she remembers being told off as a kid for for doing exactly that. And so now she's finding it upsetting as well.
Oh.
And then she asked, well, why were we told off for doing that? And her mom was like, oh, well, that was because, your dad always had headaches. And he was quite an old dad. He, like, when she was born, he was like 50 or something.
Okay.
And so everyone kind of had to be quiet around him, adults as well.
Okay.
Especially when kids were like, no, don't do that. It'll give him a headache.
Yeah.
And it's like that got passed on. And now she's getting upset about her kids doing it.
That's interesting.
And it just opens up this like floodgate of things where you're like, oh yeah, this, these are the reasons why I am reacting in a certain way to things. I don't really want to get into specifically like what upsets me or something, but it was just very eye-opening, and I would highly recommend reading that even if you don't have children.
Okay.
And I can totally see how when he gets a little older and he starts actually being able to like choose what he does. I mean, the reason why I was finding it hard is because he doesn't know what he's doing.
Yeah.
He's not choosing to cry to get attention.
Yeah.
He's not doing. He's just a baby. He's
Yeah.
so small. But like I was thinking straight away, imagined if he was like a little older and he started to, and like something scared him, like we were I don't know, like at a swimming pool and he didn't want to jump in from the diving board or something.
Yeah.
Because I'm scared, Dad. I'm
Yeah.
like, well, nothing's gonna happen. I mean, just the thought of it, I was like, I'm gonna make him jump from that diving board. And I was like, why do I feel like that? And I just started going through, and like I think I'm quite good at self-soothing and getting over my fears, or like at least challenging them, and like trying to understand that I'm afraid of it, but it is not scary necessarily, and being able to overcome that. And there's a lot that I can look at in my childhood that I feel like would do that. And I see myself with other people finding it annoying when they aren't able to do that, or when they don't default go to that.
Uh-huh.
And just being aware of it, I felt like immediately I was like, now I don't feel as strongly about that anymore, like in a negative way,
Right.
which I don't know, it clicked a little bit. Very interesting.
Huh.
The way you react to things in your life can, like, it would be interesting to just trace back and see, well, is that something that maybe I was told when I was a kid? And like, often it is, and it's not
Yeah.
like this crazy
Yeah.
new theory. I mean, like obviously,
But it
just
does,
the way
I
it
think in
was-
general, just helps to understand why people, like if somebody acts towards you in a negative way, but you can kind of root it down to something.
Yeah,
It really helps
that as well.
that you're like,
Yeah.
okay, I can deal with that
Mm-hmm.
because I think I know why you're acting that way.
Right.
Even though you're not saying it, but
Mhm.
yeah.
And it helps you empathize, and that's a big part of the book. Is it helps you empathize with your child a little bit. You know, if they're craving attention,
Yeah.
and you're like, you don't need attention, it's annoying. It's like, well, think about it for a second, like try and see it from their perspective.
Yeah.
And then you're like, imagine yourself, like seeing your own child makes you subconsciously and consciously often think about yourself at that age. You just can't help but not do it.
Okay.
Which totally makes sense. And so you're suddenly able to empathize with them on a different level if you kind of spend a little bit of time just thinking about yourself at that age and what you were going through or what you were feeling.
Yeah.
And then suddenly you're like, it just helps to think about it that way.
That's cool.
So that book I'm very excited about. And then, well, I watched Enter the Void, which just blew my
Gasper freaking
my
no.
mind a little bit. It's been on my to watch list, and I don't know why. I've never watched it. I thought it was like an old film.
That's funny how that happens sometimes, right?
You know the film Brazil?
I know a lot about it, but I've never
Robert De
watched it.
Niro, right?
I've never watched it. It's one of those films that gets brought up at film school a lot.
Yeah, so I watched that, and I think the title, the cover of it, you know, it's not the same, but it has to do with
Okay.
the mind. And I somehow must have joined these two films together as they're from the same period, and they're probably going to be similar.
Oh, I see.
So I always like not wanted to watch it
I
because
see.
I didn't like Brazil. And then I watched it, and it like very rarely, or not very rarely, but just less and less, the more I watch, the less I get like wowed when I watch movies. But I really was just kind of like knocked out a little bit when I was watching it. There's just something about the style of it and the way it used cinematography to tell a story that I'd never seen it before.
Yeah.
I'd never seen it before.
Very intense movie.
And I don't even know if I like it, but
No,
it just
it's,
really inspired me because I was like, wow, this is so different.
Yeah.
And it
I think
was
that's what you
refreshing.
can respect.
Yeah.
Even if you're like, because I think I had that a little bit the same, like, I don't know if it's the strongest story or acting or whatever, but you're like, it's so different and cool that it's like, dude, at least you fucking tried something.
And one step
unique.
further away from just being different for the sake of being different. It
Right.
felt like there was some method to the madness.
Yeah.
It wasn't just weird.
No.
Even though it was
Sometimes
very,
it was.
Even though
I
it was
think,
very
but-
close, but
yeah.
I felt like it worked.
Yeah.
That part of it worked.
Yeah.
So that was a huge one.
Nice.
And then I've been watching season 3 of The Handmaid's Tale, which is just every season it blows me away how, again, it's so different in my opinion. The way it's shot, the way it's really the way it's written and edited that gets me.
Yeah.
And it's just such a strong, on all levels, such a strong series. And I said to you the other day, I watched an episode I said would probably be on my top 5 TV episodes of any show ever that I've ever seen.
Wow.
It was so good. So I highly recommend The Handmaid's
I need
Tale
to catch
season
up.
3.
Uh-huh.
And we'll watch the other seasons first.
Yeah.
To anyone else listening.
Oh, yeah. Friggin' HBO. They kill it.
Yeah, they got us.
And they've been doing it for years. I can't remember what I was listening to, but somebody was like, oh, and then HBO were the only people who'd like let us do that. And they just seem like a cool, like they just let people do their own shit.
Yeah, definitely.
And kind of just trust in
HBO.
people. And do they ever do movies? Like, let's get on that shit.
Maybe. We also just watched a documentary on HBO, a 2-part documentary series about the girl who texted her boyfriend to commit suicide, and he did. And
Oh, yeah. I heard about that.
That's good.
I haven't heard about the documentary. I remember when it
The
happened.
documentary's good. Oh, I don't know. I just like the story.
It's crazy. All right.
Documentary's, it's all right.
Okay.
It's on HBO.
I don't know much about it. I'll have to check that out. Get another 7-day trial.
All right, tell me, what have you been watching?
Bang. Got all the DVDs right here.
Well, have we already talked about why you have these?
Yeah.
Right, we did. 'Cause
Yeah.
You used to have.
Yeah, but just as a little recap, basically, you have an insane amount of DVDs, a almost maniac amount of DVDs, and I took one of your many boxes.
Yeah.
And so I have about 140 of your DVDs at my place right now, just stacked on my desk. And my computer still has a DVD drive. And I was really anti-DVD because I thought the quality sucked. I'd take it back. You know, I totally take it back.
So down after you'd said that comment about it. Oh, the quality's so bad.
Yeah.
I don't watch DVDs. I was like, oh.
I mean, it might be bad if you watch it on a
I
TV.
thought
I
we
don't
were
know.
gonna have them in our office, and we're gonna have like a little
No, they're
station.
great.
and like,
I totally take it back.
yes.
So I watched 127 hours. This is going to be from most, I don't know, these are just shuffled up. 127 hours, fucking amazing. I'd only watched it once before, and I just thought it was so interesting. I don't remember it being that
It's
interesting.
disguised because it's such a.
It feels like such a,
it was
like,
such a popular film when
Yeah.
it came out. You know,
I was like, I thought it was just gonna
nominated for
be-
an Oscar. Such a memorable story. So people talk about all
Yeah.
the one, you know, where the guy gets trapped and cuts
Yep.
his arm off.
cuts his arm off.
But then it has all this great stuff in there.
Yeah.
Like little moments and the way it's edited and the way they tell that story.
It's just more than, it's like a piece of film.
yeah.
You know, there's style to it, and it's very interesting to watch. You know, he gets trapped by the rock, and I was like, in my head, I kind of took a moment. I was like, okay, where would I go with this? And it's such a hard thing to answer for yourself because you're like,
Did you
the whole thing is now filmed here
right?
in this small little
Yeah.
cramped space. Like, how do you start to fill that out? And then fucking
does.
Danny Boyle,
Yeah.
he fucking kills it. I was like, I thought it was so interesting without a lot of like, there aren't a lot of like flashbacks and stuff or like stuff to get out. A lot of it takes place in that fucking,
Yeah, it does.
you know,
Yeah.
it's done really well. Anyways, that was great. There Will Be Blood. Oh my fucking God. So good. I feel like everyone fucking knows it's good. I don't need to say too much about it. But it really made me want to dive into Paul Thomas Anderson, and I've never known too much about Daniel Day-Lewis. I've always known he's like one of the best actors, people say, and I always love finding. In my film knowledge, there are massive gaps, right? I've got very specific, like, oh, I know this thing, and then there'll just be a swath of things that I just have completely missed.
Yeah.
So I love that there's so much still for me to like I look up on IMDb and I'm like, oh my fucking God, there's so much for me to get into, you know?
Yeah.
So excited. Anyways, Spartacus.
Not so good, huh?
Well, I was really upset because it's a Kubrick film. So as I was watching it, I was like, fuck.
You were trying to like it more
I
than
wanted
was,
to like
right?
it
Yeah.
so bad. And then I was like, you know what? I don't know. It's okay. It feels it's not timeless in my opinion. A lot of it just didn't make sense to me because I'm a millennial.
Yeah.
So like certain fight scenes and stuff just seem almost comedic.
Fake.
Right. But then there was some amazing stuff where they had like 8,000 extras, you know, all as an army, and they were part of the actual Spanish military, whatever, walking information and stuff. And that shit, you're like, that's fucking sick. And just the way, I like the way an epic is told, and the sort of, it reminds you of like old Hollywood when you hear those scores and stuff. And then catching the little Kubrick jokes, or at least what I thought were like him putting his little things in there. And then I read about all the stuff on IMDb afterwards, and I was like, it makes sense. Like, he didn't have control of the script. There was a lot of like, Kirk Douglas seems like kind of an asshole, to be honest. It just seems like there was a lot of strange stuff.
Yeah, you have an interesting process of watching movies, and I've started copying it to an extent.
Yeah.
Is that you'll watch something and then you'll immediately go and research it.
I by the end of the movie, I get so excited.
Yeah.
Even if I finish at 1 a.m., I'm like, I want this movie to finish because I've got I just want to read about
how they made it.
Yeah.
Anything weird that happened during
Yeah.
it. What was the situation surrounding its
It's
production?
so interesting to find out, I think.
Yeah, it's good.
Because it just shows you as well. It just gives you perspective on like how fucking weird it is to make movies.
Yeah.
You know. Midnight in Paris. Great. Loved it. Don't have much to say about it. That was great.
That's a review
Yeah.
for the book.
Well, I never watched a Woody Allen movie, and that was another one in NYU. Everybody was, you know, and I think that's sometimes what happens to me. If too many people say it, the little emo in me comes out.
That is what happens
and I'm like,
to you.
man, I'm not
you
gonna
don't
watch
like
it.
stuff that other people like.
Well, I don't like saying I like something because other people like it. So sometimes I just forget then that it's like, oh no, this is still
might
fucking
still be
great.
worth watching.
Yeah. It's just a lot of movies, you know? World War Z. Boy, did this movie suck ass. Let me tell you. I can't even remember. I read about it afterwards as well. And it's like, I think it's like $100 million budget movie. And for that amount of money, I was like, well, you just flushed that down the toilet, didn't you? I don't know why
Yeah.
people were interested in. Apparently, there was some bidding war. I think it's a book that it's based on. There's a bidding war. I'm gonna say it. I don't like zombie shit. I don't know why that's not like a one-off where it's like zombies. That's a cool idea once.
There's so many zombie
Why is that a
movies.
thing?
Yeah.
Why are we so obsessed with like
You
the
clearly
Living
don't
Dead?
have my zombie box of DVDs.
No, I just think
literally
there's-
have like 25 DVDs all about different zombie
It just
movies.
doesn't make. It's very hard for me to at the very beginning.
I'm
when
a big
everyone's
fan.
Like, it's zombies, and everyone's like, "Oh my god, why? There's a virus, and the virus mutated, and we gotta figure out what the mutation is." And
It's a classic horror genre. That's why. I think.
I don't get why there aren't more creative alternatives. If I was going into
To
like an
ways to tell that
apocalyptic,
story?
like, because especially in the book, what I read about it,
Yeah.
the point was to like, it's a big comment on when something happens, how do a lot of different countries react to that? And it would talk a lot about immigration and sort of how do you deal with that and politics and all this shit. That's super interesting. That none of it came through in the movie because it got rewritten and everything. But I was like, that's interesting to me.
Right.
That's an interesting, or like an apocalypse where it's, I don't know, talk some about something else than the zombies. I don't give a
Yeah,
shit. But
that I can agree.
it
with
wasn't
that.
made for me. You know,
It's
I don't
not
care.
about the zombies. It's about what I like about zombie films is the way, or zombie TV shows is the way it gives you an interesting way to look at humanity and
Right.
how they react,
Right.
and how people start. To
But you could do it like
react.
Children of Men, or I think there's just a lot of other ways.
Yeah.
I'm not saying one's better than the other, but actually I am. But I just think it's weird to just focus in on this one thing to try to, you know, whatever.
It's an action film.
American, but it also made its money back, and I always have to say that. I think it made like $500 million.
Right.
So again, who the fuck am I to say anything? They made $400 million profit. Like,
Well, I mean,
fuck it.
I when I watched it, I didn't not like it. I don't remember.
Yeah, you
loving
should watch it
either.
again. It's pretty terrible. But
No, I'm not gonna watch it again. Thanks.
American Psycho. It was so different than what I expected.
Oh,
You know, because I didn't know it was a satire. I
Right.
thought it was gonna be like this. Oh my god, I'm getting ready for the fucking
Horror
In my head, I was like, I don't know. Yeah, horror movie.
right. Yeah,
I've heard about
it's
it
like it's
so
like a
much.
comedy.
I thought it was like this. I thought it was gonna be like a Kubrick sort of like crazy slasher Tarantino, and then it starts and it's like so interesting. This thing of me slowly being like, wait, I think this is kind of funny actually. Like this is so strange. Like,
Oh my god, it even has a watermark.
and yeah, and Christian Bale, and it's just like I'm getting more into. I haven't watched a lot of his stuff, but then I watched, Batman. I think I talked about it last time, and I've obviously seen pictures from like The Machinist and stuff.
Big Short.
He's just
Vice.
like, who is this fucking guy?
He's very good.
He's really good,
The
but
Fighter.
Wild.
Yeah.
I can't remember. I think I watched it right before I canceled Slovenia or right after I canceled Slovenia. So that's why
no
I
one
wanted
knows
to watch
anything
it.
about that.
Yeah, we'll talk about that in a second. It was really good, although it's more just like an interesting, like I would separate it from how I said 127. I'm like, oh, it's a film. This to me is like, oh, this is a story.
Okay.
Was blown away, but what made me
I-
feel good makes me want to do it. But it's not like, oh my god, that shot.
Well, I like the way it explores. I think it does a good job of dealing with grief and guilt. I
Yeah,
think it does that, and it has a feeling like it. Seeing this doesn't make me go, oh yeah, the one like where she hikes, like the inspiring hiking movie.
oh, I see.
It makes me go like, oh, like
Yeah.
it's painful. I found it very painful to watch,
Oh, okay.
and so I feel like it works. I really like this one.
I thought it was okay. And Death Proof,
Oh, that's good.
Quentin Tarantino's 5th movie. What a strange film. What a fucking strange movie. I liked
Name
it.
one of his films that aren't strange. That isn't strange.
Well, I think there's what I mean to say is that it's like if I didn't know it was him, I couldn't promise you that I wouldn't have turned it off if it was just on TV or something
Really?
when it starts. There's a lot that's like, I mean, it just starts with like a 15-20 minute conversation of 3 girls in a car, and it's like it's good, it's well written and everything. At the same point, like never, at least it went over my head if it kind of leads to something. It's very like, it's like someone proving how good he is at film. It's like flexing his muscles and being like, look at what I can do in this
Yeah.
scene, and I can make it good.
Yeah.
And very few people could do that.
Wasn't that good?
Yeah. But I'm saying it, you have to kind of know, like trust the person. If it was some random person that had done it, I might have been like, after 2 minutes, like, okay.
I guess there's a reason why they put the 5th film by Quentin Tarantino.
I don't
on the
know.
front cover.
And like 2 separate stories, and it was really interesting. Although I'm gonna be honest, I wasn't blown away.
Oh, that was one of
Yeah.
my favorite
Yeah.
films when I was starting to get into movies.
Yeah, it's one of those I feel bad. I really wish I fucking loved it, but
The other day, I actually made a list of my top 25 favorite films of all time. because
and
I
Death
felt
Proof was on it.
Because I felt like it was changing so much. I
Yeah.
felt like I was watching so many things. And it just barely fucking changed. It was all the same stuff. I'm not going to read it, but no, I can't even find it. Great, Mads. I made this massive list of all the films I could imagine would be on there. And then I had to go through. I was like, 25 is so few. Have you ever tried to do that? I was like, oh, like Whiplash is for sure going
Oh.
to make it on there because that blew my mind.
It's
the
so good.
And
It's
then-
so good.
I couldn't put it on there. Like I had to pick.
What?
I had to pick.
Oh, yeah,
films
actually.
over it, and it was like, wow, that's crazy.
No, I think I would have to.
I had a very strict criteria for how the films got on here. It had to be something I had watched like at least 3 times,
Yeah.
and I've only seen Whiplash twice,
Okay.
and that was the final thing because
Okay.
it's like when you watch something 3 times, that means you've gone back not just once but twice.
Yeah.
which I feel like says something. It's easy to say that you like this one film, like Enter the Void.
Yeah.
But you're not going to watch it again. You're definitely not going to watch it a third time. Well, you might watch it again.
I've
You're not
watched it like 4 times,
Oh,
5
damn.
times, yeah.
Well, but
But I wouldn't put it
maybe
in my
would-
top.
But for me, it's just that ended up being because there's so many films from my childhood that I say childhood, I mean like teen years.
Yeah.
That have so much more meaning or I think have more meaning to my life than recent things. Just
I
because
see.
I feel like they shaped my understanding of certain things more because I was a teenager.
Yeah.
So they will like forever have a leg up compared to anything else I watched.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Like things you grew up watching. It's like
I
hard to
guess
not
I
think
kind of
about
watched crappy movies, so I don't know if I have that exactly. But
that. Anyways, that was a fun exercise. It took
what's
me-
what's number 1, or just what's at the top?
I don't have.
Not that it's in
I
order.
I couldn't do it. in
But what's at
order.
the top?
Just have 2001: A Space Odyssey. And it's something I struggle to watch.
2001.
Yeah. But it when I watched it the
Yeah.
first time, it is 100% the film that made me want to make movies. Because I think we've talked about this before on the podcast.
Have we?
We watched it together for the first time. Or you'd seen it before, but I
Yeah.
hadn't seen it before.
I brought it.
We're having a movie marathon.
Yeah.
And it was like 12 hours into this thing. It was the middle
Yeah.
of the night, and everyone was so tired and out of it. And then this thing came on. And I don't remember thinking about anything other than the movie, the
Yeah.
whole length of it.
It's a wild one.
And it just, that happens not so often, that you watch a film and don't think about anything else other than the film. It completely removes you from your own
Yeah.
reality.
Yeah.
And it did.
Yeah.
And I don't know why. Probably because it was in the middle of the night.
Yeah. But isn't that interesting?
Mm.
Because I think, remember when you were a child and you would actually forget that you're watching a movie,
Yeah.
which has never happens to me now. I can like dissociate quite a lot,
Yeah.
but I'm never like a dream when you wake up from
Yeah,
it and you're
yeah,
like, oh,
yeah.
thank God that's not real.
Yeah.
I used to have
Or,
that as a kid
"Oh,
out
it's
at
not
the
real."
movie
Yeah.
theater. The credits would come and I'd be like, oh my God,
Right. Yeah.
right, it's a movie.
Yeah.
I totally forgot.
Yeah.
But I think it's interesting because when you're very tired, or if you drink, if I'm pretty drunk and I watch a movie, you can really get into a movie
Well, yeah.
that way.
I mean, that's a big part of what I used to do.
But
so.
it made sense to me. I was like, I see that. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Because you dissociate more.
Yeah.
And you're more willing to go along with
Yeah, and
this is reality.
Yeah. And you feel a lot stronger because you think it's real.
Yeah.
You think it's you.
Yeah.
If you get really drunk.
But
That's not good.
No.
Um,
Yeah, I find that interesting. But yeah, I also watched Whiplash. I should say that. At the end of the Whiplash, I watched it twice now. Both times I've stood up afterwards and clapped. And both times I watched it by myself. That's good. And it's so fucking good, that ending. Anyways.
I was watching it with Oscar sleeping on my chest.
Yeah.
And by the end of it, I was literally like
It's
going
so,
around sitting like
yeah,
this with him.
Yeah. There's just some movies where I'm like
very
watching it and then I
exciting.
just... Oh. All right, well, let's get to the end of this sucker.
Yeah.
Like I said, there was what I thought was funny is I had listened to the last podcast a little while ago, and I was like, "Oh my fucking God!" Like everything we said we were gonna do. Well, actually, when I had listened to it, a lot less had happened. You finished the script now and stuff, but I said a lot of the stuff we were like, "Okay, we're gonna come back. We're going to have done this. This is going to be done. This is going to be done. This is going to be done." Like none of it was done at the time where I was listening to it when we had thought it would be done. But
And now a lot of the things are.
yeah, now
It just
actually,
took a little
as I
longer.
said that, I was like, wait a minute. No.
But that's what I was saying in the beginning. It was like, I feel like for some reason, I really felt like I did not want to do a podcast until we had done those
Right.
things that we said.
Right.
A little bit of that like accountability
Yeah.
s kicked in. And I
Yeah.
was just like, no, I'm just going to finish everything I kind of said I
Yeah.
wanted to do. With the exception of the Iron Man. So this has been...
Right. Let's get
this-
to the gravy.
Yeah, that was... I think I was already talking about the fact that my knee was hurting a little bit last podcast.
Could be.
Basically, it didn't get better. It got worse. And I wasn't able to run suddenly.
Yeah.
Like, it got to the point where running was not just uncomfortable, but after a couple of kilometers, I felt like I had to stop or else it would, like, become like a serious injury or
Yeah.
something. It just continuously got more and more painful. And I went to the doctor, and she said that it looks like your kneecap could be slightly crooked,
Yeah.
and that, ever so slightly crooked, and something like falling from a climbing wall,
Yeah.
kind of twisting your knee a little bit could do something like that.
Yeah.
And that when you were playing basketball the other day, that might have irritated that part.
Yeah.
And so that was like 3 weeks before I was supposed to run it, and I'd already taken a week off trying to get over it.
Yeah.
And it just didn't get better. And so it took me like 2 weeks to accept that I wasn't going to run it on the day that I had planned for a year to run it. And
It's not crazy. That was a year ago.
that was really hard.
Yeah.
Because I think we talked about this briefly, and it wasn't as hard as I thought it was going to be, which made me really happy, because then I realized I was doing it for the right reasons, which was almost like a good learning experience.
Yeah.
That I was worried that not doing it would make me really upset, because all of the training would kind of like go out the window.
Yeah.
As in, right now I'm not in great shape,
Yeah.
running wise.
Yeah.
Or cycling or swimming wise. And that all of those fucking early mornings in the pool dealing with old people telling me I didn't wash my body properly, or swimming in the cold ocean, or running after work and not wanting to, or cycling on the weekend was all going to be like for no reason.
The old people not watching that could be taken out of context.
Telling me that I wasn't watching, but that's what they did. But
did they show you how to wash it properly?
They told me to go back into the shower and clean myself again, because I hadn't cleaned myself.
They're like, let me come in the shower with you. Let me show you.
And I was like, are you
Like
fucking
this.
kidding me? Are you saying that you're standing there? Because I had washed myself properly. That's the thing. But I hadn't washed my hair.
Yeah. God, people at the pool are apparently lunatics.
I'm never going back to the pool.
Yeah.
I'm doing all my training in the ocean from now on. But yeah, that was a little bit of a bummer to
Yeah.
then like not be able to utilize that training for
Yeah.
the actual race itself. But I was very quickly like, it still does a massive thing, when you're doing the workout.
Yeah.
And like afterwards, it makes me a much more clear-headed.
Yeah.
And does like a huge amount. So I wouldn't not have done it if I knew that I was going to get injured. But basically, I went for a run last week, and it didn't hurt the same way it normally hurts. It was a little sore afterwards, like a little tender, but it was that the first time it happened, and it ended up getting to what I would say a full recovery.
Yeah.
So I'm optimistic that soon I can begin training a little more intensively. We've been climbing a little bit here and there. That seems to be fine. Biking doesn't hurt, because biking was hurting, which was telling me that something was actually like move. So I mean, I need to then train up again to be able to.
Yeah, of course.
I've lost the fitness.
Yeah.
I don't need a whole year.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
I need a couple of months.
Yeah.
To retrain. I think what I'm going to do is just do the 3-month program that I was halfway
Do
through.
it again.
Do it again.
Fuck.
That is a little hard.
Yeah.
That was a lot.
Fair enough.
But yeah, it's still happening. This is the thing about
That's
goals.
life.
It's just like, it's not like I don't do it then.
No.
It's like it just gets moved to when I can.
Yeah. Well,
It'll
we
be
had
a-
very similar situations. Sorry, what were you going to say?
It'll probably be in the winter that I run it,
Okay.
which will be fun in itself. Cold water
Yeah.
swim. Add some elements.
Does that make
in
it
there.
easier?
Oh, let's make it easier.
Just breaking the ice as you.
But I did the bulk of my training over the winter, so part of me actually gets excited about thinking about that.
Okay.
I feel like I like it more, because I'm a little bit of a loner when it comes to sports. I happen to pick a lot of solo sports,
Yeah.
with the exception of climbing, but you're not hardly together when you
Yeah.
do that. I just like being by myself while I do them. And in the summer, everyone's out, everyone's running, everyone's biking, everyone's swimming in the water. I prefer it when no one's out and
Yeah.
it's dark
Yeah.
and it's raining and no one's there.
Yeah.
It does a lot more for me mentally.
I would agree.
So that gets me a little excited.
Nice. Exciting. Off of that, I didn't go to Slovenia for I think the
good reason.
quarrel is a very similar one where I think we both have a bit of a personality that if we say we're going to do something, I feel
fucking
very
get done.
guilty after if I suddenly decide not
If
to
you
do
don't,
it.
yeah, it has
It's
to be
gotta
a
be-
serious
yeah.
reason, right? Yeah.
So that got canceled, and I was pretty upset after that. But it was because Boris and Johan wasn't going to be done,
Yeah.
and it would never have been done. I mean, now that I see how much work still went into it,
yeah.
and even if I had left, I got like anxiety just thinking about like, what if I had just gone, and I'd be like, oh my god, I'd still be working on it now. All those amazing epiphanies that we had.
Yeah. Might not have
I
gotten them.
even question sometimes, like, are those things that would always happen, or is it the right mindset for you to be in? And I'm like, I couldn't have taken off that amount of time after coming back. So I don't even know. There's a lot of like things where it's like, I mean, I guess, yeah, I don't regret very much to begin with, but it's just that thing of like, I'm glad I canceled it and we got Boris and Johan done. And I think it's better than it would have been,
Yeah.
you know.
I totally agree.
I guess that's an argument to be had. Like, does creativity, is it inevitable,
No.
or is it something that's like, no, you had to have the right
I think
moment of time?
there's a massive difference between. Well, I think obviously there are loads of different kinds of people,
Yeah.
but broadly speaking, there are those who would wait for creativity to strike, and
Yeah.
there are those who would create a scenario where they know it will happen if they just keep working at it.
Right.
And I think that's probably a case of that it's like you decided that you're not going to go away from it. You're just going to keep working at it until it's done. And
Well, it just
that
felt
allowed
very
you
like
to,
abandoning the project a little
Yeah,
bit.
totally.
And of course, I planned for it to be done and I wanted to do this thing. And then it's like, you just got to be like, well, I guess I can't do
think-
that. And then same thing, you postpone it. And now, you know, for people who want to know, I'm trying to walk the Kungsleden now, which is a different trail. It's a little bit cheaper. It's a little bit closer. It's a little bit shorter. But even that is like, it's hard to plan, that sort of stuff, you know, especially I think with the situation that we're in. It's like, I'm slowly realizing maybe I just shouldn't tell people what I'm doing. Because what's the worst part about it is like, once you say it, you feel like you want to commit. But then a lot of times there's better reasons that you almost avoid just because you're so like, nah, I don't want to be a fucking bitch. I'm going to fucking do this. I'm not going to let myself, a couple of thoughts in my head, you know, stop me from doing it. And sometimes there's very good reasons
and I
not
think
to do something that you said.
That's the thing to work on.
Yeah.
I don't think the thing to work on is whether or not telling people. I think you can be aware of, this is something I know with myself that I want to do, and I want to give myself the biggest possible
Right.
chance of doing that
But
thing.
yeah, it's just, you tell it like
And it's a
flippantly,
tool.
like, oh yeah, I think I'm going to do that in July now.
Right.
Or I think I'm going to do that in August now.
Right.
Just because in your head, it's that thing. You always underestimate how much you can do in a month, and you overestimate how much you can do. Or you overestimate how much you can do in a month, and you underestimate how much you can do in like a year or 2 years or whatever. And I think that's totally true. Because a month, you're like, oh, it's a month. That's so much time. And bang, the month is over.
Boom, you have a baby.
Yeah.
Boom, he's 2 weeks.
Yeah.
2 months.
And now I've had like my mom and a couple other people had said like, oh no, you need to go on that walk, and like you wanted to do that, and that's your vacation. And like the reality of it is that Boris and Johan was the vacation. As fucked up as that sounds, it's like we took 2 months off, or I took 2 months off to work on a film that we've got no money to fund for us to work on it.
Mm-hmm.
It's purely like,
And I did the same on my script.
yeah. So I think a little bit, it sounds weird to an outsider a little bit, but it's like, that's what I decided to spend my free time on. And I'm very happy that I did.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a privilege that I'm even able to do that I'm able to take off that much time to work on something that is a passion project. And then a little bit, you got to come back to reality, and we have jobs and we have work to do.
We work hard to be able to do that.
Yeah.
We did so much that last month to be able to be in a position where we knew that we would have stuff to work on after we had finished Boris and Johan and the script.
Yeah. You know,
And we really pushed it. Like, we didn't know it was going to take 2 months.
the Boris and Johan in the script.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because they basically finished the same week.
Yeah.
We didn't think it would take that long.
No.
And we really, like, that last week, I was like, I know that I cannot work on this for 1 day more.
Yeah.
I literally had
you
to
hit
set
that-
myself
there
a
are
day
deadlines.
that I have to finish it
Yeah.
today.
Yeah.
And I remember sitting there, I was just like,
Yeah. Yeah.
enjoy reading the last couple of pages.
But
But it's all worth it.
yeah, because now we're back. We're working on projects again. I brought my computer back yesterday.
Dude, I was going to say today.
Yeah. So that's been nice again. And we're just getting back into the flow of things. And we've got work to do and we've got jobs to find. And summer vacation's over.
So are you saying that you're not going to go on your...
I really want to go. But like I've said, I don't want to say anything because
Right, fine.
it's like I don't have any like, money. Like I don't know what to say.
I think it's like,
You know.
I mean, the plan we came up with seems pretty legit to me.
It seems legit if a couple things, yeah, I don't need to
it'll
talk about
be-
it on here. I can talk to you about it afterwards, but a couple things need to lock into place for me.
Yeah.
And then I can go.
Yeah, I agree.
But I'm just done with telling people like, oh, I'm going on this date.
Yeah,
And then it's
fine.
like, well, actually we have work to do and we need to, so it's all there. And the beautiful thing is like the Ironman, it's, I feel like I'm totally prepared now. I've got everything I need. I've like put myself in a position that I can literally kind of do it from one day to the next. And if the opportunity presents itself, I'm going to take it. If it happens to not present itself, there's next year. There's other times to do it. You can do it in the winter. There's thousands of different options that I would just have to maybe work a little bit harder or something. But I think it's also a pretty good sacrifice for having your own company and what comes with that.
And the first feature-length film.
Yeah,
That will be fun.
that will be fun. And that is all I wanted to say for this week, I
And we'll
think.
see you next week on Burning Boat Business.